10 crew members, 10 rules, and one system that covers everything you need to build an anime physique and actually keep it. If you've ever started a program, saw some results, and then fell off because life happened, it's probably because your system was missing a crew member. So today, I'm stealing one fitness rule from every single Straw Hat Pirate and turning them into the simplest, most complete guide to getting jacked and staying jacked. By the end of this, you'll know exactly which piece that you're missing. So let's go in order, starting with the captain. Let me ask you this. What makes Luffy one of the most iconic characters ever? The guy is a simple-minded idiot, and that's exactly why we love him. He has one goal, and he never wavers. But here's something vital that people overlook. Luffy never says, "I'm trying to be king of the pirates." He says he's going to be king of the pirates. That tiny word changes everything. Saying trying gives you an exit. Going to is a decision that's already been made. So stop saying, "I'm trying to get in shape." You already are the person who is getting in shape. You just haven't had enough time for the results to catch up yet. So act like the outcome is already locked in and your actions start matching that belief. That's why we respect Luffy and we know that he's going to be king of the pirates one day. Outside of the plot armor. This isn't just motivational fluff, since when you see yourself as someone who works out instead of someone who is trying to work out, skipping sessions starts feeling wrong instead of easy. And that's the big shift. But identity alone doesn't mean anything if you just disappear the first time life gets in the way. And that's where most people actually fail. Zoro has some of the most epic moments in One Piece. The nothing happened to the Tarzan yell, the man is just built different. So what's the best fitness lesson from all of that? It's his sense of direction, or the complete lack of it. Zoro gets lost constantly, but he never stops being Zoro. And that's the entire lesson. Your schedule is going to get lost. Your motivation is going to get lost at some point. Everybody's does. So the Zoro rule is simple. Never miss twice. If you miss Monday, Tuesday is your new Monday. No guilt or restarting. No, "I ruined everything." Most people don't fail the plan, they fail to make a comeback. They miss one day, feel like a fraud, and then disappear for 2 weeks. Zoro doesn't do that. He just shows up with a sword in his mouth and kind of a bad attitude. And a quick tip, stop using a 7-day calendar like it's sacred. Instead, you can try using a rotating plan. Work out A, B, and C, and just keep cycling between the three. Trust me, your pecs don't know if it's Monday or Thursday. But here's the problem with just keep showing up. That was a lot of quotations. If you don't know where you're going, consistency just means getting lost consistently. Nami is low-key the most important crew member. Without her navigation, every single Straw Hat is dead. She's not the strongest or the flashiest, but she keeps the ship going in the right direction and getting them where they need to go. If your goal is to get in shape, you're going to be floating around the sea forever. In shape is not a destination, it's more of a vibe. So set your log pose and pick one main goal for the next 8 weeks. Not build muscle, lose fat, get abs, fix posture, learn calisthenics, and have an awakening by Tuesday. Just pick one goal. If you want to build muscle, pick a strength target. Get your bench press up or work your way up to your first pull-up. If you want to get lean, pick a measurable fat loss number. If you're a complete beginner and you have no idea what you want, here's the easiest goal. Become a person who trains 3 days a week. That's it. And if you've been lifting for a while, but you keep hopping between programs like a channel surfer, you're never actually building any momentum. You can't progressively overload a workout that you never repeat. That's not really training. That's more like skipping episodes and wondering why the story doesn't make any sense. But you know what? Nami can point the ship in the right direction all she wants, but it doesn't matter if nobody actually has the guts to actually set sail or step off the ship. So Usopp has to be one of the most relatable Straw Hat characters. Everyone else has superpowers and endless courage, but Usopp is just a dude who sees every threat the way a normal person would. And that is what makes him the most courageous character in the show. He's terrified, but he always steps up when it really matters. That's literally the skill that most beginners are missing. Not the perfect program, not the perfect diet, but the ability to take action when you feel nervous, overwhelmed, or your goal just seems impossible. So you don't need to be confident to start. You need a show up anyway protocol. When you don't feel like going to the gym, your only job is to do this. Walk in. That's it. Then you're allowed to leave, because once you're there, 9 times out of 10, you'll do more. And even if you don't, you still won. You proved that fear doesn't make the decisions for you. And for the days that do feel impossible and you really don't want to do anything, even if you did show up, just have a minimum mission ready. Just pick one machine, a leg press, lat pull down, chest press, whatever you like doing. 3 sets, 8 to 12 reps, and then you're done. That's a complete victory on a hard day. Consistency isn't built on your best weeks. It's really built on the weeks you would normally vanish. And that's just Usopp. Scared, shaky, complaining, but he's still on the ship and he's still in the fight. Now here's the thing that most people don't want to hear. You can show up every single day, but if you're eating like garbage, absolutely none of it is going to show. And I know this because I learned this one the hard way. I think we can all agree that diet is the hardest part about getting shredded. The world is seemingly set up to push easy, processed garbage onto us, and every fitness influencer says that we need to eat plain chicken breast forever. This is what kills most people's progress. And I know because I used to be that guy. I'd eat perfectly Monday through Friday. I'd count every single calorie, every single little grain of rice, and I would be miserable throughout the entire time. And then the weekend would hit and I would just go absolutely berserk. I'm talking about 2 weeks of suffering compressed into 1 week, but only getting half a week or no progress at the end. And eventually I just ended up ballooning back up to even further back than I was before. The problem wasn't really discipline. The problem was that my weekday diet was so restrictive that binging just ended up being inevitable. And that's what most people's stories are like, whether they admit it or not. Remember, Sanji was recruited to make sure the crew gets proper nutrition so they can stay in tip-top fighting shape. And if you've ever noticed, his meals are incredible and every straw hat is still jacked. Nobody on that ship is eating sad, flavorless chicken and broccoli. So try this. Learn to make the food that you already love just better. Now, I'm not talking about eating clean forever. I'm talking about swaps. Take any recipe that you already love and then break it down ingredient by ingredient. And then ask yourself, how can I drop the fat, cut the sugar or carbs, and add more protein? Go down the list and swap by swap where you can. For example, I make a cheeseburger at home that fits my macros. I use lower fat beef or turkey, fat-free cheese, a low carb bun, and stack it up with all the veggies that I actually want. Now, does it taste like a Five Guys double? No, but does it taste 90% of the way there and not make it feel like I'm in dietary prison? Absolutely. And here's one that actually surprises people. I eat French fries almost every single day. All you need to do is cut up a potato, spray a little Pam spray on there, and air fry them, and you're done. High volume, tastes great, and they're not even close to the calorie bomb you'd get at a drive-thru. It also comes with a lot of micronutrients. Nutrition doesn't need to be complicated. Hit your protein, make smart swaps, and for the love of God, gentlemen, stop white-knuckling through miserable food all week just to explode and binge on the weekend. It's not worth it, trust me. Remember, Sanji doesn't cook one amazing meal and then disappears for 2 weeks. He cooks every day, and that's the goal. So now, even if you nail your nutrition, there's one thing that can quietly undo all of it, and about a third of you are doing it wrong right now. Chopper is the crew's doctor. His whole job is to make sure everyone is healthy enough to keep moving forward. And if he was your doctor, he would look at about 1/3 of you and say that you're cooked. Not because of your training or your genetics, because you're not recovering enough. And I learned this the hard way. I was in the best shape of my life. I was the leanest I'd ever been, and also somehow the strongest I'd ever been. Everything was clicking. So naturally, I did the smart thing, and I kept pushing harder and never took a break. That was sarcasm, by the way. Then one day, I walked to the gym, and it felt like the gravity just suddenly got cranked up 10 times. My lifts were, I shit you not, cut in half. It wasn't just one bad day or just a slump. My body just said, yeah, done. Luckily, I had a trip coming up and that forced me to be out of the gym for about a week. And guess what happened when I came back? Full strength. Everything felt super smooth again. Just 1 week of rest fixed what weeks of grinding couldn't. And honestly, that wasn't even the most eye-opening part. I once had to take a full 2 weeks off, if you can believe it, and I was convinced that I was gonna lose everything. And instead, I came back and broke through a bench plateau I'd been stuck on for over a month. Everything just clicked in a way that it hadn't for a long time. So please remember, Chopper would say that recovery is a part of training, not something that you get to do after you go to the gym. It's the thing that actually makes training work. One thing that always surprises people when I talk about going to the gym and training is that your muscles actually don't grow in the gym. They grow outside of the gym when you're resting and recovering. And sleep is going to be the biggest lever that you have. I used to need 10 to 11 hours every night just to feel alive. But it turns out that it wasn't about getting more sleep, it was about getting better sleep. Starting a consistent bedtime and wake time, keeping your phone out of your room, or at least just out of your reach when you're trying to go to bed, and a dark, cool room. Once I fixed the quality, 8 hours started to feel like more than 11 ever did. And every 6 to 8 weeks, please take a deload. Cut your volume in half or just take the whole week off. I personally take the lazy route and just skip the gym entirely. Don't judge me, I had to catch up on One Piece somehow. So you might be thinking, doesn't that mean I'm just soft if I have to take a break? No, you are not being soft in any regards, you're just not being stupid. You're doing what every long-running protagonist does. Survive the season so you can come back stronger for the next one. Luffy wouldn't have survived 1100 episodes if he didn't take a break once in a while. So now you're training, eating right, and recovering. But there's a trap that catches a lot of intermediate lifters off guard. They start chasing something shiny, something intriguing, and they forget the stuff that actually builds muscle. Robin is the scholar and the brainiac of the crew. While everyone else is throwing punches and screaming, she's the one reading ancient texts and figuring out what's actually going on in the world. She cuts through all of the noise, and I wish that I would have listened to her advice sooner. A while back, there was this huge trend in the fitness space where everyone was talking about the stretch. Getting the deepest stretch on every possible rep was the key to muscle growth. Stretch, stretch, stretch. Of course, being innocent, I listened and went all in. I started chasing the most extreme range of motion on everything. And you know what happened? Nothing really. Actually, my gains slowed down because I was so laser focused on getting the perfect deep stretch that I completely lost sight of the thing that actually matters the most. Training with real intensity. I was going through these elaborate ranges of motions, feeling like I was super smart. But the thing is, the weights weren't even challenging me that much. The moment I stopped chasing the trend and went back to the basics, my gains came back. And actually, training became pretty fun again. So Robin would tell you to master the boring basics before chasing anything flashy. There are 3 principles that drive almost all of your muscle growth. And they're not complicated. They're just not very sexy. 1, get close to failure on your working sets. Not sort of hard. Like, actually hard. You know that moment in an anime where the character is laying face down in the dirt and they're having that internal monologue about everything and everyone that they're fighting for? And then they slowly push themselves up, looking down, shadow over their eyes and you can't see it, and they just get up for another round. That's what a true hard set should feel like. that dig deep and stand back up moment. If you've never felt that in the gym, I'll be honest, you're probably not pushing yourself close enough to failure. Next, number 2, do enough hard sets per muscle group per week. Roughly 10 to 20 sets spread across at least 2 sessions per week if you can. That's the dose that drives growth. And 3, track your progress. Write down what you lift. If the numbers aren't going up over time, something needs to change. You don't need a fancy app or a fancy notebook. The notes app in your phone is just fine. That's what I personally use to get my strongest ever. And that's it. That's 90% of what matters. Again, Robin doesn't chase flashy power-ups until she was fighting that one spider lady. That was pretty cool. She studies the fundamentals that make her irreplaceable. After all, that's what makes her dangerous to the world government. Do the same. Now, Robin can hand you the blueprint, but if your environment is fighting you every step of the way, you are going to lose. And most people's environment are actually working against them. Franky is the crew's super engineer. He builds the ship, he designs the systems, and he creates the environment that makes everything possible. So follow in his footsteps and engineer your ship or your environment so the right choices are easy and the wrong ones are harder. Now this might sound super basic and super obvious, but it's where most people silently lose. Here's what I mean. Getting out of bed to go to the gym is hard enough. If you then have to go find your shoes, dig out your favorite lucky underwear, figure out what to wear, figure out what workout you're doing, and then remember to grab your water bottle, you've added like 4 points of failure before you even leave the house. And there's likely even more. Every one of those is a chance for your brain to say, you know what? Nah. So I pack my gym bag the night before. Clothes, shoes, headphones, even the clothes that I'm going to wear for work the next day, all of it. In the morning, the only decision I have to make is pick up the bag, leave, and choose which energy drink I'm going to have. The less I have to do when I'm tired and half awake, the more likely everything's going to go perfectly smooth. But here's the one that made the biggest difference for my nutrition. I stopped keeping any sort of junk food in my house. I'm a big proponent of eating flexibly and eating the foods that you love. If I want something flexible, a treat meal, some snacks, or whatever I want, I just go out and get it. I buy exactly what I want, enjoy it, and then just move on to the next day. Because if that stuff is sitting in my kitchen, I'm gonna be eating all of it and I won't plan for it. And that's not a willpower problem. That's an environment problem. And the fix isn't more discipline, it's just removing the temptation outright. Franky wouldn't build a ship that sinks in a nice, gentle breeze. So stop building a daily routine where every default choice leads you away from your goals. Make the good stuff easy and the bad stuff hard. You can quote me on that. Now, once your environment is set, there's one last piece that turns all this from something that you have to think about into something that just happens automatically. So Brook is the musician and personally one of my favorite characters. His whole purpose is keeping the crew's rhythm and morale alive. And rhythm is exactly what separates people who train for 3 months from people who train for 3 years. So to do this, find the earliest open slot in your schedule and make that your gym time. Every week, every training day, no negotiations. So here's why the earliest matters. The later that you push your workout, the more things can get in your way. Work runs a little long, you get tired, your buddy wants to play Minecraft, and suddenly it's 9 p.m. and the gym sounds about as appealing as a filler arc. If you work night shifts, go before your shift starts. If you're in school and you have a gap in between classes, that's your new window. If you work a normal 9 to 5 and mornings are open for you, you already know what to do. The point isn't that morning workouts are magic. The point is that when your training gets the first available slot, it stops competing with everything else in your day. The second that you sit on the couch to relax for a minute is the moment that you're never going to be getting up. But this way, Training becomes a thing that's already done before any sort of chaos or resting stops. So train at the same time on the same days if you can until it stops being a decision and it starts just being what you do. Just like brushing your teeth without motivation, hopefully. And that's your goal for gym sessions. Make them so routine that you don't require a pep talk. Brook doesn't wait until the crew is in the mood to play music. He plays and then the mood follows. The same thing with training. Don't wait until you feel ready. Just go at your time and you will get used to that training time over time. So your environment is set, your rhythm is locked in. And now there's one final thing. The difference between training hard and training like an expert. Jimbe is the steady hand of the crew. Not the flashiest fighter and not the most reckless. He's the one who's experienced and knows exactly how much force to apply and when. So train like Jimbe. You train hard, but not stupid. Most of your sets should end with about 1 or 2 reps left in the tank. And I know that kind of sounds soft, but trust me, it's not. If you're truly 1 or 2 reps away from failure, this is still brutally hard. If it feels easy or not much of a challenge, you're not actually that close. Go back and rewatch the Robin section. Push closer to failure on safer movements like machines and lighter isolations, and be more conservative on the heavier compounds when fatigue is stacking and forms start to break down to be an injury risk. That's not fear, that's a strategy. Save the all-out war sets for your last set of an exercise. That's when you push to the edge. Your earlier sets help build up the volume. Your final set pushes to the absolute max and just breaks through all of your limits. After all, good training is repeatable. Longevity is the ultimate flex. You're not made of rubber after all. So let's put the whole crew together. Luffy gives you identity. You're not trying, you're already becoming. Zoro gives you consistency. Never miss twice. Nami gives you direction. 1 goal, 8 weeks, go straight there. Usopp gives you courage. Show up even when you're scared or feeling overwhelmed. Sanji makes nutrition real. Swap for smarter, stop suffering. Chopper handles recovery. Sleep well and please take your deloads. Robin keeps you on the fundamentals. Train hard, do enough volume, and track your progress. Franky engineers the environment. Make the good choices easy and the bad choices hard. Brook locks in your rhythm. The earliest slot, no negotiation. And Jimbe keeps your intensity controlled. Hard, but not to the point of breaking. If something isn't working, it's probably because you're missing a crew member. Drop a comment down below telling me which one you think it might be. Once it's out in the open, fixing it becomes really simple. And if you're ready to actually start building your physique, the next video is the exact 5 mistakes people copy from anime training that are secretly sabotaging their gains, and the anime accurate upgrades that actually work. So click right here.